Hey guys, we're the East Coast Card Crew. I'm Christian.
I'm Philip.
I'm Jeremy.
And today we're looking at the newly announced Disney card game, Lorcana.
Indeed we are. So this game has been announced at the D23 Expo. It only has 7 cards that have been showcased at the Expo itself. It is slated for release in late 2023, I believe fall or sometime around there. But it is supposed to be a trading card game that is going to be, taking some inspiration very clearly, at least from what we've seen from the likes of Magic, Pokemon, that kind of stuff. Definitely trying to, come in with a pretty big footprint on the card game scene. So we're excited to check these cards out. We're going to give some first impressions in terms of, what the cards look like, our experiences with trading card games in the past, and what we can kind of decipher from that and from what these cards show. And maybe get into a little bit of a discussion.
Disney's Lorcana was designed by Ryan Miller, who also had a hand in a handful of Magic the Gathering sets, the design of I believe the American release of Duel Masters, and then the reskin of Duel Masters Kaijudo, which came out and sadly failed. I thought it was a good game. And the currently running card game, Digimon Card Game.
That's a big one.
It is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Now, the Lorcana logo is something that looks really, really interesting to me, and I see that it includes some colors in the O part of it. And we can see those colors reflected on these cards we're going to be talking about right now, which come from a long list of the main Disney properties. Doesn't look like there's any of the extended catalog, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars.
Yeah, currently not, but I imagine if there's any sort of spillover, it'll be like in the expansions and whatnot.
Yeah, it'll probably be like an expansion set down the line, like the Marvel expansion or the Star Wars expansion. It looks like the ones that they've released have kind of been framed in a way of like representing different eras of Disney. Like you have like the early stuff, and then you have the cards like Stitch, which is a little bit later. You have Elsa, which is even after that.
You've got Robin Hood, which is like early Disney.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely covering a wide range, which is nice because, this being framed something like, obviously a children's card game, but, a card game nonetheless, that's going to attract a lot of attention, especially with the Disney, titles and IPs and whatnot. I think it'll be really cool for, younger audiences, for younger players to be picking up these cards who maybe aren't as familiar with the older, movies that I don't know about you guys, but I fell in love with, and Peter Pan, we've got Robin Hood, like all these super old movies that sometimes people haven't watched. So it'll be cool to kind of blend in. Oh yeah, there's also Stitch, whatever, but then there's also Robin Hood. I want to see some Sword in the Stone cards, personally speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually see that model you're talking about of the older stuff being introduced to the newer audience in a already successful card game that I believe this is also kind of pulling from, which is Pokemon. The new generation didn't grow up with Bellsprout and Venomoth and all these weird Gen 1 Pokemon that we hold near and dear because we grew up with those Pokemon. But to this new generation, they see things like, I was about to say Lucario, and I'm even sure that's old. That's probably considered old at this point.
Diamond and Pearl.
That's Diamond and Pearl. That's Generation 4.
That can't be that old, man.
That's 5 generations ago. I know. So I definitely think we can see that because certainly kids today buy the Pokemon packs to get all their cool Pokemon, and they see all these cool, characters and creatures and whatnot. And this is exactly that, a bunch of cool characters. Just alone, we're looking at some of the older cards here. It looks like of the older cards, the first ones we can take a look at are these villain cards. Maleficent, the Monstrous Dragon. I do like that in particular, is that she has, her name, who she is, and then a title to refer to, I would guess, this printing of Maleficent, because there has to be more than one printing of every character.
But you also could have the Maleficent, human form of Maleficent, which will probably be sorceress or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. One thing I did notice right away was the title underneath the name, but then also right below it, there's
Keywords.
that kind of strip. There's a keyword section, and I think that kind of goes a long way in terms of probably future-proofing, but also just giving options with what they do with cards down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Will other cards interact with specific keywords, or will those keywords be necessary to trigger certain things? It's definitely a very interesting way of doing it, not just having the name and then a title, having also a keyword breakdown of the type and whatnot.
Speaking of breakdowns, let's actually take a look at some of the stuff that's just on the card, first of all. Using Maleficent Monstrous Dragon as the example here. As you can hear, she's probably off somewhere burning down a building. You can hear the fire department in the background.
Yeah, making some lovely noise in our recording.
Oh, yeah. So first thing we can take a look at in the top left, which is a number with what looks to be like the Lorcana O that I had originally mentioned from the title, Lorcana. And I would imagine, since all the colors were in the O on Lorcana's title, this right here is the mana value.
The cost of some sorts, whether it's called mana or something else. I think it's kind of fitting. I mean, most cards, either top left or top right, will have their cost on there. So I think it definitely screams, cost value or something along those lines.
Man, Captain Hook getting disrespected. A 1 cost?
Well, listen, to be fair, Captain Hook was kind of a joke villain.
Yeah.
He wasn't a very menacing one, that's for sure.
We'll get more into that, though, because I have some opinions about Captain Hook here and him being that low cost, like you mentioned. So back onto the design of the cards, actual physically. Yeah. We have a nice, I would say, top 45% of the card, aside from that corner bit that shows the mana value. And that is just a really nice piece of art. For Maleficent, for instance, it's just majority of her profile, her standing over what seems to be like a burning area with a tower in the back and brambles and forests and swooping background in the clouds and such. And then right below that, like we had mentioned, that she has her name, her proper name, and then the title that goes with her. And different from how we're used to seeing with a lot of card designs, we actually have the values, which we can assume are like an attack and defense value, in the center right of the card, rather than at the bottom, top, or however I usually would see them for, like Magic, for instance, or Pokemon, who has it in the text at the bottom.
Or even Flesh and Blood is bottom left and bottom right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting placement. I think just based on what they clearly value, which is going to be card text, it's kind of the only place you could really put it outside of putting it towards the top, which would be unusual for a game, or for a card game at least.
It also might have something to do with the fact that there might be different types of the cards. So it's correlating with that particular Maleficent or that particular Captain Hook, because the Forceful Duelist, I would imagine that's probably not his only title that they're going to give him at some point.
Yeah. I mean, and then I think it'll just be a separate card with separate values. But yeah, I think... I don't know. To me, the shield thing kind of screams one of two things. So obviously, the one on the left seems more like an attack value. It's very pointed, and even though it's a circle, it's very pointed out. Outside of that, has little spikes. The shield. So I don't know if it's going to be something maybe you have, outside of you having direct life, the creatures having their own life values, or if that would be something you can use this shield value to represent how much you're blocking this attack for a direct damage or something like that. I think the shield could go one of two ways. It could just be a life that, something like Magic regenerates at the end of the turn, or it can be something that stays, or it can be something that isn't as interacted with in terms of a direct minion-to-minion combat, but more like a protecting your face kind of thing.
Gotcha. Below that, we have the creature type section that we had mentioned earlier about how there are just a bunch of text there. For instance, for Maleficent, there is Storyborn, which is something that I can't quite wrap my head around what that specifically means. Then it says villain. That makes sense. Maleficent's a villain. And then it says dragon. Very obviously, Maleficent is a dragon in this picture.
She sure is.
And then to the left, there's a little symbol that is also colored in the same color as the background for the title and name for Maleficent. And it looks like that would be the characteristic red symbol. And we can actually see that on a few other cards here that they have different colors that also have a little symbol there. And hopefully that'll be something interesting to look at. And then below that is the main text. The main text being an ability. For Maleficent, it has a name, which is Dragonfire. And when you play this character, you may banish chosen opposing character. Now, I looked into it. I believe that banish in this game is the same as destroy, send to the discard pile, put in your graveyard. Banish is not the exile in difference to the graveyard like we're used to seeing for Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Or even Flesh and Blood.
Flesh and Blood too, exiles.
And then below that, we have a little bit of flavor text in a nice little italicized. And for Maleficent, it is the 9th rule of villainy. When all else fails, turn into a dragon.
Very fitting.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's really nice. It makes sense. I mean, these are all like storybook characters that we came to like know and love, and then you have like flavor text representing them. It just, you know, it adds that nice flavor. I think there's one last part of the card that stuck out to me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little like, how would you describe it, Phil?
So I would describe them as like little, not quite diamonds, but kind of diamond-like shapes that point upwards.
Yeah, like that.
And they're on the bottom right-hand side, like right to the
here.
right of the text and whatnot. I mean, we'll have the cards up so you guys will be able to see, and we'll point them out. But she has two, and there are different values on some of the other cards. So it kind of goes to show, okay, there would be some difference. There's at least from the cards we've seen, there's anything from 1 to 4. So quite a big difference. Now, I don't know if that's going to be something like each card can also represent a cost, or like not just a cost to play it, but also a resource value. That's what I was thinking. Like maybe you discard
Like
that
it's worth
card.
that many
It's
resources?
worth that many resources. Or maybe if it's out on the board, it generates a certain amount of resources. But then, you know, it would be weird for like, that would also be kind of its own balancing act. Like, for
Yeah.
example, with Captain Hook, okay, you have one resource. It generates one resource, let's say. So that would make sense kind of like in a scaling way. But I could also just see it being like a pitch this for resources kind of thing.
Yeah. My take on that is I think it might have something to do with, and I could be totally off base here. We don't really know much about this
Yeah,
game.
this is all.
I think it might be like a victory value kind of thing. Like,
Like
if,
it's worth that many victory points or something?
yeah, like at the end of the game, like if you kill enough characters, you get points equal to the number you kill on them. And I think that reflects well because if you look down at something like Robin Hood, even though it costs less than Maleficent, it has a lot more text. And then Stitch, who has this thing called Shift, which we're going to get into when we actually go over the Stitch card, has a higher value, even more so than Maleficent. And then when we look at the I would say titular Mickey Mouse, but Disney's technically not titled Mickey Mouse, but it's the same thing. Come on. His is worth 4. And his doesn't seem insane. I don't know. His ability seems mid. I don't think he's too crazy, but we'll get more into that, which is why I believe that those little symbols might be some kind of like victory value or something, because
If they're victory points, then that's more into the board game territory.
Yeah.
We're getting into more of my expertise.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, looking over Captain Hook here.
Yeah, we're moving on from Maleficent to Captain Hook now.
Yeah, he's a 1 cost in theory with a 1 and 2 for his like spiky and shield. And he's gray, also villain, but he's Dreamborn, which is different from the Storyborn, but we don't know what that difference is quite yet. He's also a pirate, he's also a captain.
All things that Captain Hook is, indeed.
And then when you get to his actual text, it says Challenger +2. Now, I think this is where we can start to glean some information of how like the combat in this game works, because when challenging, this character gets +2 of the spiky symbol, which is leaning us to believe that that's the attack.
Yeah.
So if he's a duelist, duelists are more powerful on the attack than they are on the defense, in theory. That makes sense to me, right? Right?
Yeah.
So if he's supposed to be attacking, a 1-drop with a, on attack 3 value for its attack value, and then a 2 value for its like defensive health or whatever you want to call it, that's actually a pretty good 1-drop.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe it's along the lines of like if challenging is going against card to card, and then there's an option of attacking the player or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There's like a differentiation. So like if you're attacking the player directly, you're doing 1 damage, but if you're attacking another card, you're challenging them
You're
and you're getting
3.
+2.
Yeah, because I mean, 1 mana, like if we're just, correlating this to something like Magic, for example, a 1 mana 1/2, is neat, but a 1 mana 3/2, if it's attacking your face, is like scary.
I'm less leaned into this. I know I already said it because I thought they were victory values over there. I'm more leaning into this as a, you don't actually attack your opponent's face. There is no like face damage to be done. And that is something akin to like Pokemon. The Pokemon card game is not a game of, beating your opponent. It's a game of whittling down your opponent's Pokemon and then getting like the victory cards that you have face down into your hand. And the same is true actually for the Digimon card game as well. So the Digimon card game, it's a matter of just wiping out your opponent's board more than anything else.
Yeah.
So being a designer from that, and then this game looking like it's leaning on the Pokemon side as well as the Magic side, I'm a little less likely to believe that it's a face value kind of thing. Like we attack each other's faces, because that also doesn't seem very Disney-esque in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I also am curious to see what they do with the lore. I know they announced very little, but there is supposed to be some sort of like overarching story in terms of, why all the different heroes and villains are kind of in this mess together.
Yeah.
To kind of bring everyone together. But we'll kind of maybe see based on that, or when there are more spoilers that come out, what it kind of looks like it's leaning into a bit more.
Yeah.
But I definitely see it being. I mean, this is all just kind of guessing, but I could see it being like victory points or something like that. It would just be a little weird for me though if it was a victory point thing, because Maleficent seems like a bomb card, like the big bad boss of something, and for her to only give 2, whereas like something like Stitch or Robin Hood give more than 2, kind of feels a little off. No, like you finally beat this monstrous dragon and just getting 2 points for it.
I think you're leaning too much on the lore side, because I don't necessarily vibe with that in terms of like a card game value thing. Because when we get over to Stitch, there's very specific things about him that would lead me to believe that he is actually more difficult to play than Maleficent, or has a more niche to like actually the game board side of it all. Yeah. And then Robin Hood actually has 2 abilities to his, and he's also appropriately statted, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
One last touch for Captain Hook here, though, is the flavor side of it, both the art for him as well as what it says at the bottom. So I love the armor choice here for Captain Hook. He has the shoulder pads. Even his tunic has a bit of like a metallic flare to it. Mm-hmm. And instead of a hook, he has like a saber on his hand. And if you look closely, and by closely I mean at the foreground of the picture, he has a fairy/pixie in a lantern, something akin to like taking Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom he says, he loves to make light of a foe's predicament. Baller. As everyone here knows, I love pirates, so I'm all about this. So now we get into the more technical side, because that was pretty simple, destroy a creature, or destroy a character, and then something simple for combat's sake with Captain Hook. But then we get into Elsa. Jeremy, you want to take over Elsa?
So Elsa is a 3-cost, assuming, purple card, and she is Snow Queen, and her, what we assume is attack and defense, or something similar, is 2/3. She is a Dreamborn hero queen sorcerer. And
Dreamborn also ties back over to Captain Hook. So now we can tell that both heroes and villains can be Dreamborn, although we still don't quite know what the difference is between a dream or a Storyborn.
Her ability is freeze and exert chosen opposing character. So exert I would assume that there's some kind of exhaust mechanic when they use their ability.
Yeah, so one thing that I saw was that little icon next to freeze.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It looks like something similar to like a tapping symbol.
That looks like a tap symbol to me.
Yeah.
So you exert this to exert an opponent's character, exerting assumably being tapping their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Seems like a fairly straightforward...
And her flavor text at the bottom is recreated by Magical Ink. Magical Ink.
Hold on.
Elsa found herself in an unfamiliar new world. Fortunately, ice works the same way everywhere.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's leaning into... Yeah. There was that one Disney game that was very revolving around like ink, or I don't know many details, but I know it had
Epic
like
Mickey
Mouse.
Yeah.
Epic Mickey.
Epic Mickey.
Yeah. There you go. So maybe it's going to be some sort of like lore tie-in with that, of like some sort of ink spilling over and bringing all the worlds together and blah, blah, blah.
That actually might be the Dreamborn versus Storyborn side of it, because this Maleficent picture looks like something from the original story.
The movie, yeah.
But Captain Hook here is wearing different armor. He has Tinkerbell and a lantern, and then Elsa here is in an outfit that I'm not familiar with. I've never actually seen either of the Frozen movies, so I can't say I'm familiar with Frozen at all, other than that I worked for a retail location that sold Disney stuff. And maybe that's what Dreamborn versus Storyborn is. Dreamborn is like, it's coming from this game's universe, whereas the Storyborn is like a more pull from the classic story. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like, even based off of that flavor text and the art, like, the art looks way different than what Frozen looks like. And, I mean, the text is what? Yeah, recreated by Magical Ink. That's a keyword.
Yeah.
It wasn't directly pulled, it was reimagined.
Recreated, like from memory or something.
Exactly. Now, and that one has a victory value or something of the sort of 1, the little diamond shaped thing.
Yep. And I think that tracks. Captain Hook was a 1-drop with a value of 1, or whatever that value is. Mm-hmm. She's a 3 with a value of 1. And then the next thing we have here is a 2-drop that also happens to have a value of 1. Yeah. Jeremy, you want to take that one too?
Yeah, so Cruella de Vil is a 2-cost, presumably. green card, miserable as usual is the title underneath.
I love that title.
That probably leans me towards believing that that's not going to mean anything. It's just going to be flavor, the title that they have, just because you can't make anything out of that.
Yeah.
It's just probably a different identifier for the card.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then she is Storyborn and Villain. She's only got the 2 keywords. And she has an attack and defense value of 1 and 3. And her attack is, you'll be sorry. When this character is challenged and banished, you may return chosen character to their player's hand.
Ooh.
1 diamond, like 1 victory point. And flavor text, when she stops by, misery is company.
Wonderful. Big fan of this card, actually.
Yeah.
I
It's
like it.
it's fairly simple, but it does have like the nice added bonus of providing a negative when it's interacted with,
Yeah.
which is, fitting.
It's a good blocker to throw out there to be challenged.
Yeah. I guess that's an interesting thing. Are you challenging your opponent's cards, or are you like blocking after your opponent decides to be like, I am challenging, and then you're like, here is the person you'll be challenging.
So
Yeah, if you look at it the way as like going to hook again, like it could be where when he's on the offensive he gets that boost, but when he's being challenged he doesn't get the boost.
So one thing that I want to kind of chime in on, there is a challenger mechanic in a game called Legends of Runeterra. I don't think either of you have played. But the challenger mechanic basically allows you, once you're declaring your attacker, to decide which card is defending that one. Like which of your opponent's minions are defending that one. So it's not clear based on any of the cards we've seen so far what challenging actually means, because it doesn't seem like there's like a keyword challenge in order to allow you to do that. It just seems like an inherent mechanic in the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how it actually plays out once we maybe learn more about the rules.
Yeah. So then we get into some of the higher costing cards. Phil, you want to touch on this? You seemed excited to talk about them.
Oh, yeah. We've got Robin Hood. He is 6 assumed, resource cost, whatever it is. Robin Hood, the unrivaled archer. And his stats are 4/4. So 4 for the pointy, 4 for the shield. And then his little tags or keywords, whatever they are Storyborn and what is that, Hero?
Yeah.
There you go. So Storyborn and Hero, pretty straightforward. Then we've got Feed the Poor. So this is his first of 2 abilities. Feed the Poor. When you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw a card. So it's a nice little like catch-up mechanic kind of thing. Just good value in general in terms of, being able to replace itself in your hand. And then its second ability is called Good Shot. During your turn, this character has, what is that, evasive?
Evasive, yes. And that says they can challenge characters with evasive. So flying?
Yep.
Sounds like
Yeah.
flying from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So, some sort of way to make it more annoying to deal with, creatures.
Yeah.
Characters like this, yeah.
Like
There you go.
referring to them as characters.
And then it has a victory point value or pitch value or whatever it happens to be of 2.
Yeah. Can you see the flavor text?
We never rob. We just sort of borrow a bit from those who can afford it. I love that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you mentioned he's also blue. Did you mention that?
I did not mention that he's blue.
Yeah, so his particular color scheme is blue. Now, I like this card just in general. I mean, it just seems like a 6 mana 4/4 with flying that ETB has a conditional draw card. That just sounds like a Magic card. Like everything about that reads just like a regular like blue Magic card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Drake or something like that.
Yeah.
Then we get into the one that I've been wanting to talk about, mostly because this one kind of changes up several things as we get into it. Phil?
Stitch the Rockstar. He is a 6 cost, 3/5 in terms of stats. He is a bit different, actually. He is the first Floodborn card that we are dealing with, and then
Not
he also
hero,
has
not story, not dream.
Yeah. He also has a hero and alien subtext or tags, whatever they are. He's yellow, so again, different than the ones that we've seen previously so far. And he has Shift 4. You may pay 4 to play this on top of one of your Stitch characters. His actual keyword ability, or regular ability, I should say, is Adoring Fans. Whenever you play a character with cost 2 or less, you may exert it to draw a card. Interesting. So it's a way to kind of like, generate extra value off of your cheaper drops.
Yeah.
And then before we get into it, a victory point or resource pitch value or whatever that is on the right-hand side of 3. Now, I know I'm excited to talk about this for a few reasons, but Christian, you seemed particularly excited. So
one of the things I want to talk about, which also, leads me to my victory points theory, is that, like, you mentioned that Maleficent is like, oh, that's the big bad. She's the one that should be worth the most amount of points. But if you look at the card game aspect, that's crazy strong. That's insanely strong, actually. The ability to, like, when you play a card, if it costs 2 or less, to then tap it and draw a card, that's like a broken Magic card. That's like almost strictly a broken Magic card. Like it'd be like incredibly strong in a constructed format, even at like 6 mana value, especially since you can make it a lesser value by putting it on top of another card. It seems decently statted based on like the other stat blocks we've seen. My tried and true method for anything that has like a value and then an attack and defense is that if the value to pay for it is the combination of the 2 other values doubled. Oh, sorry, if
divided by 2.
Divided by 2. Thank you. That's usually like an on par kind of thing. That's at least how it was for like some of the Hearthstone stuff and some of the Magic the Gathering cards. This seems to be a little like skewed as like the cost goes higher and the stats kind of stay low still. Mm-hmm. But what were you excited about this?
I was excited because the shift mechanic seems really interesting. That kind of reminds me more of the Pokemon leaning into aspect thing of like evolutions. And if something, let's say, does carry over damage like you do in Pokemon, this is kind of an indication that it might also lean into that way if you are playing something like a Stitch deck or a whatever, yellow deck or whatever the archetypes end up being. But
I wonder if it's going to be that you have to have a Stitch to play it on there.
I don't think so.
It says you may pay.
It says you may.
So you can just hard cast this for 6.
Exactly. So I don't necessarily think that it is going to be like a strict evolution thing, but I think there are opportunities, like even something like this would showcase that what might be the case is that you might have like damage carryover, for example. And then, this card costs less to get in, it'll still retain the same stats and everything about it, except, if you do have a Stitch that has taken damage, this comes in with a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be it.
I wonder if there's a reason why they don't have a symbol next to pay. They just have like an asterisk.
Pay 4.
I guess that is to say, like, I guess that asterisk might be like the mana symbol.
Yeah.
They
or it
could
be
also
like a placeholder, like they just haven't decided on the final thing. Because usually it would say pay for whatever.
Yeah. It just has an asterisk there, so it might very well be that they're not sure on the final product. And then we have the final card, the one that is I think, limited edition to specifically the D23 Expo.
Yeah.
Although I know that they do plan on releasing all of these cards in the first set or in sets. I don't remember what the exact details were. I just think that this specific artwork or something for Mickey is going to be specific to the Expo itself, kind of going along with the limited edition of cards and trading card games. So, but yeah.
Yeah, we're looking here at Mickey Mouse, the brave little toaster.
That's the first thought that popped into my head when I was looking at it too.
So I had to say it. No, but it's Mickey Mouse, brave little tailor. The art shown is actually him with like a little
little tailor outfit.
Little tailor outfit, a little ranger hat kind of thing with a feather in his cap. And he had a nice little scarf, and he's holding a big old scissor.
Yeah, it's a very, very old like Mickey-esque looking version.
But as we've put together through our like posturing, this is a Dreamborn hero. So this looks like it'll be coming from the lore of Lorcana rather than from a story that already exists. But I feel like
there is a little tailor.
There's a little
there was a
tailor.
tailor.
Yeah, so this isn't... Dreamborn maybe we're off base a bit. Also, we have Floodborn to try and consider and see what that is. But to actually get into this card, it's an 8-mana 5/5 red, so similar to... Same exact symbol as Maleficent. So now we can see that there's consistency in like what they're doing with the colors. So there will be like colors for decks. This would be in your Maleficent deck, I guess, as your 8-drop if you're on curve, whatever the curve it ends up being. It is evasive, and that's his only keyword. So evasive is something that we already saw on Robin Hood, but Robin Hood's evasiveness only comes on your turn, not on any turn.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that it says that evasive was. You just go back up to Robin Hood, please. So on Robin Hood, it has they can only challenge characters. They can challenge characters with evasive for the good shot ability because it was like an offensive ability, and then this one's describing evasive.
Yeah, because this is only characters with evasive can challenge this card.
Yeah.
Now, this one right here is a little weird to me in my personal, victory point theories, because I don't think this card's very strong. It's just an 8-mana 5/5 with, flying. But it then has the highest value we've seen of any of these cards, which is 4. Mm-hmm. So whatever that value ends up being, it seems interesting that the 4 is on this, and it makes me less likely to believe my personal theory about this, because if this was worth 4 in, a victory point kind of deal, and your opponent kills this, it doesn't seem terribly difficult to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems, I definitely think it plays more into, the pitch value thing.
I think because it's half the cost. Stitch was also half the cost. I mean, that doesn't work with Maleficent, but...
Yeah. But, with something like Maleficent, you could maybe argue that, if you have, a bomb card like that, putting too many of those in the deck might be risky because they don't present high pitch values or something.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's pitch, and one of the reasons being is back onto the whole shift 4 thing for Stitch. If that was the case, then they would have just put 4 and then this little symbol next to it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that was the thing that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah.
But, there would have to be some kind of either you're paying it on specific turns and you're getting a certain amount of mana or something in return, or there's going to be some kind of a mana or energy magic card or something.
Yeah.
That would be what you're paying with.
Going back onto an old game that Ryan Miller produced, Kaijudo. So Kaijudo's mana system worked in you put a card, I think it's either from the top of your deck or from your hand face down in the mana zone. And you can then just tap those for a plain value.
Okay.
So it's not outside of Ryan Miller's wheelhouse to just make it your cards
Maybe
are
that's
just
how much they
utility.
tap for.
Maybe.
That could be it.
That also could be it. But that'd be interesting then, because you'd be able to just, throw down Mickey Mouse on your first turn and have 4 mana?
I mean, there might be I don't know. There might be something behind it on being able to put down a certain number each turn or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely very mysterious, but I do like that that the evasive also seems a little at least our initial interpretation of evasive seems a little iffy. What's the real reason for Robin Hood to have evasive on your turn? Just besides attacking other things with evasive, is that the only reason?
I guess so. I mean, that would be the only time you really need it. I guess it's so that,
So it's not, it doesn't just have keyword evasive and then it's extra strong, but it can deal with things that...
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can deal with things that have, it's like reach. It can deal with things that, they actually would be the opposite of reach in Magic terms. It can deal with those things that have evasive, but it itself does not have evasive, so those things that don't have evasive can still kill it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Alrighty. So that was all 7 of the cards. We had Maleficent, Captain Hook, Stitch, Robin Hood, Elsa, Cruella de Vil, and then the Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah. 7 cards. Definitely not a ton of information. This game is, I would say, about a year out, a little more than a year out, maybe.
It says autumn 23, so literally this time next year.
A year out, yeah. So, so definitely going to be more, I'm sure more information ahead. I'd definitely love to take a peek at, the rules. I'm sure they're going to announce more stuff within the near future, definitely coming into the next year.
Yeah.
But I personally am very excited for this game. I think if it's anything even if it's a slightly simplified version of Magic or Pokemon or whatever else the case may be, I think it's definitely going to be a very potent game to kind of challenge the other card games, especially with carrying big, a big name brand like Disney and big IPs like Mickey Mouse, Frozen, everything like that. Especially if they start introducing things like Disney's other IPs, like you mentioned at the beginning, like Star Wars,
Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be fun.
It's going to be good for getting younger kids into the hobby, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait to play my Simpsons deck.
That'll be.
Oh
good.
yeah, all the Fox stuff.
Oh my God.
And don't forget your National Geographic deck too.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for my National Geographic deck.
Oh, what about ESPN cards?
Oh my gosh, Josh Allen, Stefan Diggs deck coming to you, 23. Where's my Bills hat?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but in terms of actual Disney stuff, Sword in the Stone, please make cards for Sword in the Stone. That would be phenomenal. And also, what was that other one? Oscar and Company.
Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company.
Really?
Jesus.
Wow.
Oh no.
That's an old one. No, I wasn't
Oliver
poking
and
at you
Company.
for not remembering. I was poking at you for how big of a pull that was.
Yeah, that's Oliver and Company is a big pull, but I definitely love an Oliver card, like a 1-drop Oliver card. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be pretty
Evasive.
cool.
He's pretty evasive.
I wonder if they're probably never going to, but I would also love to see, like some IRL content stuff, like a nice Hannah Montana deck or, the Sky High deck.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
One thing to continue on, both the joking and I'm also kind of serious when I say this. One thing that kind of disappoints me with this, like personally, is that this means we will never, ever see the universes beyond in Magic the Gathering for any Disney properties.
Yeah.
They just started announcing some of the Warhammer 40K stuff. We know we're getting Lord of the Rings stuff for Magic the Gathering soon. Yeah. But this means there's no shot, no Marvel, no Star Wars, no Disney.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that Disney would hold on to that kind of a thing with their IP even before they were doing this because they know that they have the means to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Any closing thoughts on your opinions? Maybe, what you're looking forward to seeing.
I mean, I think I kind of like this new reimagining that Disney's doing with some of their properties. Like they're doing that Mirrorverse game too. I think the mobile game, where it's like fantasy oriented characters that went into the Mirrorverse to fight. So they're kind of just like taking their properties and just taking them to a different perspective, and I kind of like that. And, right in the nostalgia, they own our childhood. So.
Yep. Good old nostalgia button. Got to press it hard.
Yep.
Oh yeah. What about you, Christian?
Honestly, I am mostly excited about the title. I really just like the design of this title right here, just Lorcana, as it comes across, and the nice big old O, and like the introduction of all those little colors in there. I think the only one that's missing. Oh no, I guess it's kind of like a silver below the blue here. Because we see like the green, the red, the purple, the yellow that we see on like Stitch and Elsa and everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I'm really into the font here.
Yeah,
I'm a very big fan of this font.
Yeah, I mean they have good promo people.
Oh yeah,
very like arcane, magic-esque.
And as far as Ryan Miller goes, I know we talked about that at the beginning. Ryan Miller, in my opinion, has a good track record. Everything that I have played from Ryan Miller's roster of design, Magic Core Set 2013, the Digimon card game, Kaijudo, I liked them. Like I really did enjoy them. I remember playing a little bit of Core Set Magic 13 because that's when I started playing, like around the time I started playing Magic, and I think that was a Titan set. I'm not sure though, but it was just some really cool stuff that came out of that era of Magic for me.
Yeah, I mean, us being the East Coast card crew, honestly, the thing that's exciting to me the most is just like a card game that has the potential to reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
Reach a lot of people, have a really big spread. I mean, once we get closer to, maybe we can touch on like, how they look like in terms of distributing and working with, local card game stores and so on and so forth, or local game stores.
I mean, this is definitely ending up in Walmart and Target and that kind of stuff. They're going to hit the big boxes first and then see the trickle down.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but also I think, especially from, like a competitive perspective, you want the card game to have some sort of competitive value just because otherwise, yeah, cool, it's a game for kids, but at some point you want it to break that like competitive threshold. Like, yeah, there are tournaments weekly or whatever for your local card game stores. Even like for Pokemon, they do like Kids Night Pokemon and that kind of stuff. So I think I'm definitely interested to see what that side of things looks like, the competitive side, just because that's always where I kind of lean towards.
Yeah. The one thing that does kind of worry me with Disney a little bit in general is like if they just turn this into the card game version of pin collecting, where it's just like you're just collecting a bunch of characters and there really is no competitive backing or there really is no mechanical backing or things like that, and they don't update it and they're just hoping to sell a bunch of characters to kids or Disney adults that are going to buy these kind of things.
I don't think that's the case though, because there's just so much cool like card texty stuff here that it seems like they've put the effort in to make this a feasible like tactical game.
I think not Ryan Miller specifically, but whatever the company that was contracted to make this game, they've also worked on Villainous,
Yes,
and
that was a
Villainous
big
was
part.
a
I've
very
played
good.
Villainous.
Ravensburger.
Yeah, Ravensburger. So, and they've made Villainous, which from everyone that I've heard that's played it, it was a really good game.
I mean, it's okay.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
all right.
I mean, I've played it a handful of times. I got it for my mom for a birthday gift because she really likes Disney stuff, and we played it. And I mean, it's okay.
All right.
It is a legitimate board game, but I'll give them that. But
Okay. Well, besides that, yeah, I think that was kind of everything that we could possibly bring to the table in terms
Absolutely.
of our initial reactions for these 7 cards and scraps of information. But I think I can speak for all of us here when I say that we're very excited to get our hands on this whenever it does come out
Absolutely.
next year.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's everything. Christian, you want to take us out?
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We were the East Coast Card Crew. I was Christian.
That was Philip.
I'm Jeremy.
And check out some of our other content, our Flesh and Blood stuff, some of our Marvel Snap stuff, and some of our Death or Glory, which should be coming up soon as well. And, keep an ear out, because we're going to keep an ear out as well for more Disney's Lorcana.
Yeah, and let us know if there's anything that we missed. If you're watching this at a later date and there's more content that came out, shoot us a comment down there and let us know. We'll definitely be sure to cover it. We're very excited for the game.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.